Okay, hi, this is a video on constructing an acquisition model. And here's how this exercise works. You can find this exercise if you go to the M&A exercises folder, number 3 of chapter number 1. And you go to M&A exercises, right? Acquisition models here. And there's the exercise. And here's all this exercise right now contains. It contains the corporate model that was developed as part of the corporate model exercises, and this was the one that had a corporate model with some history, and it had some dates on the top, and after the dates it had forecasts. And there was all this, I hope we discussed some of this idea that you could update this forecast by changing this, and then you have to go through and look at your assumptions and see kind of how your assumptions changed for the last period, and all of that. All right, and now let's make some acquisition assumptions. So let's assume that we have a date of the transaction. And let's assume that this date is not necessarily the end of the quarter. Maybe we'll make it 4th of August 2015. So it occurs somewhere in the middle. Okay. Now, if we do this, first thing to do is find out what the now we have to let's find what column of the corporate model. Because what we like to do is to get we're going to use the match and index over and over and over again to get all these dates right, and to take this model with the history and then make a second acquisition model out of that starts from a pro forma balance sheet. Now, to find this column, we can just put a match, go up to our date, and then go down to our model with the history. Okay, and that says it's column number 43. Now, if I would do an index on this column and click on this one and go up here and click on this, then that date is actually the match of this gives you the earlier quarter. So that's exactly, we can even call this end of quarter for acquisition balance sheet. Okay, and let's see how we'll use that. Now, if we wanted to get the book value of this, the book value will be this is just the book value of the equity, that will be in the balance sheet. We'll just click on the whole line that was the whole line for the debt and the equity, just the equity. Go up, this way, and put our thing in. So that's our equity. Now I just stuck in a market to book ratio and pretend that we have, let's find the shares here. So we'll take the book value market, multiply it by the market to book value to get the market value. Of course, we should show this. Capitalization, just multiply these two together, and then put the number of shares as an index, and go to the, again, this time let's go to the profit and loss statement, just right here, click on the number of shares, and I suppose that, well, there's the advertising. We could see if we issued these new shares or something, so our current price is just capitalization divided by the shares. Now, of course, in an actual model, you'll have the real share price, or you'll have some other way to compute this. Now, let's put how about a 30% premium in here, and so we can put the total consideration, okay, which is how much you pay for the equity, which is 1 plus the 30% multiplied by current price. Now, the next thing we can do is compute a series of kind of benchmark ratios. I think we should do that. The easiest one would just be the PE ratio. So let's put earnings. And if we wanted to do forward earnings, so perhaps we wanted to do the forward earnings for the next 4 quarters. Let's see if we can do this. We can do sum of offset. And then our first one is an index. Oh my God, this is a classic kind of error. You think, oh, I'm so good, I'm doing all this fancy stuff. And we're going to start with, maybe we'll start instead of July 1 or 15. That's kind of our historic one. Let's start with the other one. So let's get the earnings for this company. I've got a phone call, so I'm going to pause it. So we put our number in, and then instead of this time just using the regular match, we'll take this one plus 1. So we'll go 1 forward. Never done this before. And then, since this is the offset, we'll go for 0. We'll keep it in the same place, 0 column 0. But then, and we'll make it 1 high. But then we'll go for the 4 quarters ahead. I hope I did that right. And I don't know what kind of number it gave us, but let's just pretend it's correct. That shows you how you can do some of your fancy little things. Probably 8 different better ways to do that, and then we can get our implied PE ratio, which is simply the market capitalization divided by that. So, oops, we only have a 5.75 times PE ratio. I better make this 4, 5. How's that? And, okay. All right, we'll go with this one. And we can also get the forward EBITDA. Maybe since that last thing, I'll go a little bit more slowly on this one. So this was, remember what it was, we sum and go to offset and then put an index and then go to our EBITDA number, and then, and that's the starting point for the offset. Once we have the starting point for the offset, we go to our row number, put +1, and then we start filling in the rest of the offset. 0 keeps it on the same row, 0 keeps it on the same column, 1 makes it 1, 1 makes it 4 quarters. And I didn't close the bracket correctly after the index. We should do that. Okay, there's our EBITDA, and now let's get our net debt. So let's get our cash and put equal index, and I hope I'm convincing you a tiny little bit that this whole business of, here's our cash, of matching index can be magic if you do it with an entire column. And let's put our debt, okay, and then we'll get equal index, and we click on, go down a little and click on the debt, okay, and we're finished. And so our net debt, oh great. Okay, so that means that we have net debt of the difference. Okay. And then we subtract the cash to get the net debt, and we can get our enterprise value. And our enterprise value, and I gotta write that down. Our enterprise value is the market capitalization plus the net debt. Okay, and there could be all sorts of other adjustments to that. Am I using this one? I should be using the, hang on, what did we use for, this was really bad. This times 1 plus the premium. See, I think I did the forward earnings and the implied PE ratio. This should have been the enterprise value times 1 plus the premium divided by the earnings. Okay, good. And then these, we can call this transaction multiple. Implied PE transaction. Okay. And then we can get the implied EV to EBITDA transaction multiple. And we'll have this section finished. Okay. This divided by EBITDA. Alright. And now let's work on the financing. And for the financing, we'll do our whole index again and just get, actually, let's do, don't need to do it there. We have the debt, and let's assume all the debt is retired, and let's assume to finance this amount we're paying for the company. Now we're going to have to pay this much plus this much, and why don't we this time, let's put some advisory fees. And let's put it as a percent, maybe percent of consideration. They love you to pay more for the company, I think. 1.5%, maybe 1% of that. And let's put the debt fees. And let's make the debt fees 1.5%. Okay, and then the new debt, so we've got to pay $400 to repay the old debt, and our consideration, our you know, where did I put the total consideration? Why don't we put here per share, and we can then put our aggregate. Okay, and that's just going to be how much of price we're paying times the number of shares. Okay, so we have to pay 6,000 plus 400. Let's say we get 3,000 in debt. And what we should do, we could put it like this or the other way, because then we can look at the debt to EBITDA Come on. Okay. And the debt to EBITDA will be this new debt minus any existing debt that you still had. So we could put plus the existing debt minus the retired debt if we wanted to do it like that. And then let's take this number and divide that by the EBITDA. Up here, we only have 2.66. Well, let's put 4,000 in debt. Let's make it a little more. Not 40,000. Okay, it's still pretty low. And why don't we also then let's put a debt tenor. Let's say that we're going to try to pay this debt off. I think we'll put. Let's make it in 7 years. Whoops. I'll change that later. And then let's also put a revolver. And this time, what we're not doing is having A, B, and C debt. We could really work on this to see just how much debt you could pay off with a 5-year debt tenor, and then how much could you pay off with a bullet debt, and finally, how much could you pay off with a capitalizing debt. But let's put the revolver amount and let's say that that's going to be something like, that's not going to be borrowed yet, but that's going to be something like times 0.5. So we'll put that in, and maybe before this we should kind of put an interest rate on our new debt. Okay, we can go and see how much it is above the LIBOR and everything else, but let's say it's 4%. Well, let's say 6%. And the revolver interest rate. Whoops. The revolver interest rate maybe 5%, 6%, 5% is fine, and there's a commitment fee on the unborrowed balance of 1%. Okay, so we have our debt assumptions. Now I put some synergy assumptions, and in the synergy assumptions I said it takes a while. These are quarters for the revenue to get up, and eventually we get 5%. Now, if you remember in our model, we didn't even put operating expenses. So I put, for the first few years, you have to really spend a whole bunch more on CapEx, and then eventually you can save something. And we can put a holding period in years. Okay. Let's say that's 7 years, 5 years. And we want to do a kind of sensitivity on this, and we better be really careful. Our EV to EBITDA ratio is where was our EV to EBITDA ratio? Is 6 times. We start putting a higher ratio there, we're going to get some crazy results. Let's put 5.5. Okay. We can do a sensitivity analysis on this, and let's add one more thing, which is the acquirer ACQ status. Let's put current stock price, and let's just say our stock price is, I don't know, let's say our stock price is 20. Okay. EPS, let's say our earnings, let's say our PE ratio is 18. So we would take this number divided by 18 to get the earnings per share. And let's say that the forward earnings per share, we'll put, why don't we insert a line and then put 1 5. Let's make these years. And then, and let's say that this goes up by 1.05. So something really simple. But with that, we'll be able to evaluate whether this whole transaction leads to accretion or dilution in earnings per share. So that's just setting up the assumptions, and I'm going to stop this, and then we're going to follow up with this thing. Shift Control C. Does that work? Okay. Is that the only assumptions we put in blue? Okay, those are our actual assumptions we put in, not so many. Okay, there were more calculations with this. And then what we're going to do now is, in the next video, is add something in, okay? Remember, you can go to Finance Energy Institute, financeenergyinstitute.com to look for courses you might be interested in that are so reasonably priced, okay? And that's enough. How long did I go? 21 minutes just on babbling about the assumptions, okay?